Okay, so today we'll be talking about Satoru Gojo, or otherwise known as Inverse Kakashi. If you've seen Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 or been reading the manga, it's pretty clear that he's obviously the most powerful sorcerer in the whole franchise. He's inherited very powerful abilities from the Gojo family, and his abilities seem to be pretty confusing to talk about, so today we're going to be talking about the overwhelming power of Gojo. But in order to actually understand how Infinity works, you've got to drop a fat sub, as these videos actually take ages to finish. Now, Satoru was born to the Gojo family, which is one of the three big sorcerer families, but obviously he's got the biggest name amongst the bunch. He was born with the 6 eyes and Limitless, which come from his bloodline and grants him immense power. When he was in his second year of Jujutsu High, he and Geto we're starting to see fundamental differences in the ideology of being a Jujutsu sorcerer. Geto believed that they should do everything in their power to protect those who are not sorcerers, and Gojo believed that they shouldn't really waste their time on those far weaker than themselves. Eventually, through a mission given by the principal, they were almost killed by Toji, and they decided to switch their trajectories as Geto decided that in order to stop the creation of curses, you must kill all humans, especially those who are not sorcerers, so completely 180. And ultimately, he asked Gojo if he's the strongest because he's Gojo, or if he's Gojo because he's the strongest. Now, this kind of resonates with him because he's basically asking him if he's strong because he worked to get there, or if it was just natural talent. Now, these are the principles that Gojo grew up on, and what led us to see the beast that we got today. Now, obviously, we know that he's the strongest, but let's talk about exactly why. Starting off with his cursed energy, his 6 eyes essentially make it so when he uses cursed energy, it is infinitesimally small to the point where it's nearly impossible for him to reach exhaustion because of it. Also, for those who don't really know what cursed energy is, the too long didn't read version is that it's a power source which is born from negative emotions and grief. And he was actually the first person in the past 100 years to be born with Limitless as well. What is Limitless, you may be asking? This is one of his other inherited abilities that grants him power over space and at an atomic level, which is the stepping stone in the creation of his other abilities. It brings infinity to life, and is common seen in its neutral state known as, again, infinity. It basically works through the math principle that you can technically divide any number by any other number in an infinitesimal amount of times and never reach zero, essentially creating a barrier of sorts that encompasses him. Any attack, person, or object which tries to reach him will never be able to reach him because there's an infinite amount of space between them. So although they might be trying to get closer and closer, they'll never reach him as infinity is unobtainable to reach, seemingly slowing down until the blow eventually stops moving. The primary ways in verse to counter this are either through a domain expansion where the user's attacks are guaranteed to land, or by a cursed tool specifically made to counter cursed energy related abilities with cursed techniques. Now, on the topic of domain expansions, I guess it would be worth noting what Gojo's is and what it does. First of all, a domain expansion is a space manifested by the user to entrap someone in their cursed techniques, and their cursed techniques are significantly amplified, and they become nearly impossible to dodge, parry, or avoid. The only way to counter them is with a more refined domain expansion, and lucky for Gojo, he's the strongest sorcerer in the franchise at the moment, and has one of the most refined and powerful domains called Unlimited Void. Now, going off the theme of his Limitless and infinity related abilities, his Unlimited Void creates an infinite void in a finite space that can be produced in as little as 0.2 seconds and forces those who are not himself to perceive infinite information and stimuli while feeling absolutely nothing at the same instant, which effectively paralyzes them. Now, honestly, it reminds me a lot of the Tsukuyomi from the Naruto franchise, but, way worse. We don't know if he can produce it any faster, but we do know that he utilized it for about 0.2 seconds one time because there were a lot of bystanders that were going to get caught in it. And that's, I believe, the maximum amount of time that non-sorcerers would be able to last without having everlasting damages or death, and even this would result in about 2 months of rehab. And that brings us to Gojo's other curse related techniques, such as the reverse curse technique. Now, this is very similar to how you would think it sounds, as it turns cursed energy into positive energy to heal rather than damage. Gojo uses this against a very, very fatal wound brought about by Toji Fushiguro, and is absolutely ridiculously overpowered. Now, moving on from that, he has a couple of pretty purely destructive abilities, which include blue, red, and purple. I'm going to talk about them one by one. Starting off with Cursed Technique Lapse Blue, it essentially creates a violently attractive force that's nearly inescapable, and Cursed Technique Reversal Red is the opposite and creates an explosive vacuum. Essentially, both of these techniques are very, very powerful, and some of his most destructive abilities in his arsenal. But there is one more that it's used that is arguably more powerful, that's when he combines the two, and that's Hollow Technique Purple, which is basically creates creates a giant purple Kamehameha, destroying anything in its path, and it's used by utilizing blue and red. Also, something I forgot to notice, I believe I saw somewhere that he can use Curse Technique Lapse Blue to increase his speed as well. And now, having that said, he does have access to some boring techniques common against other Jujutsu sorcerers, such as Curtain, which creates like a massive black veil around a specific area to, to keep it hush-hush when exercising Cursed Spirits, because obviously you don't want other people to interfere, any bystanders, any non-sorcerers. Now, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to kind of talk about with regards to Gojo and his absolutely overwhelming power, as I see a lot of misconceptions around the character, so I hope this helped. I'm also planning on making a video later this week talking about Gojo versus Kakashi, as I saw some parallels between the two, as I'm sure that you guys have seen as well. So definitely, if you guys are interested in stuff like that, stay tuned, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, because those videos are going to be coming out later this week, and I'll catch you in the next one.